glad to have you with us. You're watching ARIRANG News. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. The stories we're following at this hour. President Park Geun-hye wraps up her trip to the Middle East and arrives in Seoul on Monday. The first thing she does is to go visit the injured U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Mark Lippert. Within the first half of this year, the Korean government will inject $9 billion. That's what's left of last year's $40 billion stimulus package for this year into the market to prop up the economy. And Korea's animation and character industry has come a long way in the past few years. With more government support on the way, some say it won't be long until we see Korea produce a character as iconic as Mickey Mouse. Before departing Qatar on Sunday, President Park said she felt that Korea's vision for revitalizing the local economy through greater economic cooperation with the Middle East was being realized. She noted that the region's post-oil era initiatives are in line with Seoul's economic innovation plan and said that one of the biggest achievements from her trip was helping Korean small to mid-sized firms strike business deals in the Middle East, so-called new industries. She also noted how Koreans' expertise, credibility, and hard-working style have earned trust in the region. When asked about Qatar's preparations for the 2022 World Cup, President Park said Seoul, which hosted the 2002 World Cup, has agreed to share its know-how on both infrastructure and public order during the sporting event. And the first thing the president did right after landing in Seoul was visit the U.S. ambassador who was hospitalized after a knife attack last week. At Seoul's Yonsei Severance Hospital, where Mark Lippert is recovering from surgery, President Park said she was shocked and saddened by the news of the attack since she, too, was a victim of a similar attack back in 2006. The president noted that Korean and Americans alike were deeply moved by the ambassador's dignity and composure in the aftermath of the incident, adding that she believes it will only bring the two countries closer. Lippert said he and his family were impressed by the Korean government and people's warm support and that he will do the best he can to further strengthen bilateral relations. And over at the National Assembly, the first two confirmation hearings for cabinet nominees tapped by President Park last month are in progress. In the hot seat today are Land and Transport Minister Yoo Il-ho, or the Minister nominee Yoo Il-ho, and Maritime Minister nominee Yoo Gi-jun. They are being grilled on a number of allegations, such as tax evasion and earnings speculation. Tomorrow, the nominee to chair Korea's Financial Services Commission, Im Jong-ryong, will undergo his parliamentary hearing. Now, a law revision that require daycare centers to install security cameras was voted down last week at the National Assembly, but the ruling party has vowed to pass the revision in the upcoming extraordinary session in April. Lawmakers who objected to the bill say it would be a violation of privacy and infringe on daycare teachers' rights. The ruling party says it will rework the bill to address the privacy concerns and reintroduce it during next month's session. Now, this comes after public demand for their legislation grew following a string of child abuse cases at daycare centers in recent months. With growing speculation that North Korea is advancing its nuclear ambitions, some are urging the U.S. administration to pay more attention to this situation. Kim Young-gil has more.
North Korea is seeking to build ever better nuclear weapons, and the Washington Post says the growing evidence of that should prompt the Obama administration to take action to stop it. But the U.S. may already be moving in that direction. A separate report by Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency citing diplomatic sources in Washington says the U.S. might push for direct talks with North Korea next month and could use its international clout to stop the North from upgrading its nuclear capabilities. The sources note, however, that the Iranian nuclear issue is more of a priority for Washington now. The Post cites U.S. researchers who say the North nuclear weapons program has gathered momentum and that it could expand rapidly over the next 5 years. A recent report by the U.S. Korea Institute at the School of Advanced International Studies of Johns Hopkins University, based on data from the Institute for Science and International Security, concludes that Pyongyang could increase its stockpile of 10 to 16 nuclear warheads and expand it to 100 in the worst case by 2020. The report highlights the North's efforts to upgrade its technologies to produce road mobile and solid fuel missiles. Most of North Korea's missiles use liquid fuel. Still, many technological uncertainties remain, including how much fissile material North Korea can produce and whether scientists or engineers can overcome the steep technical challenges. Despite the challenges, Pyongyang has surprised the international community before with its nuclear capabilities, such as by revealing a uranium enrichment plant in 2010. The report advises having a clear-eyed view of the North's nuclear weapons capabilities to keep the North in check. 김영길, ARIRANG News.
Authorities in Russia have made 5 arrests in the ongoing probe into who killed Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken Kremlin critic. All 5 are said to be of Chechen origin. 2 of those suspects have been charged by a Moscow court. Connie Kim reports.
A Moscow court has charged 2 men accused of plotting to kill Russian opposition leader Boris Nemtsov, an outspoken Kremlin critic. Zaur Dadayev, a former police officer who fought Islamic insurgents, admitted he was involved in the killing, while the second suspect, Anzor Gubashev, pleaded innocent. Russian state television showed the men's arrival in court wearing handcuffs and covering their faces. 3 other suspects have been jailed. And all 5 men are of Chechen origin, which could potentially be a sensitive issue in Russia, as many Russians view Chechens as violent extremists. A 6th suspect reportedly blew himself up with a grenade in a standoff with police in the Chechen capital of Grozny. Nemtsov was assassinated in late February, days before he was set to address a major anti-government rally. He was also to publish a report on the Russian military's involvement in the war in Ukraine, despite Moscow's denial that it has supplied separatists with troops and weapons. The biggest question now is who ordered Nemtsov's assassination. Some of his supporters have gone so far as to say the Russian government was behind the killing. Russian officials deny that, and President Vladimir Putin has condemned the killing and pledged to do everything to find and prosecute the killers. Nemtsov's shooting is the most high-profile killing of an opposition figure since Putin came to power in 2000. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
Now, this past Sunday marked exactly 1 year since Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished on its way to Beijing, together with the 239 people it was carrying. Relatives of the missing marked the anniversary with grief and bravery. Take a listen.
This is why I am here speaking to you today. This is why I'm here going through this heart-wrenching episode, talking about my feelings. It's not easy. But I'm doing it because I need to know that I've done everything that I can for my mother, even if she's not here.
Now, she helped organize a memorial in Kuala Lumpur where attendees signed a tribute wall and a petition to urge the search continue until the plane is found. Also, on Sunday, a nearly 600-page interim report was released by an independent investigator showing that the plane's captain and crew were mentally sound and that the battery of a flight recorder had expired more than a year before the flight. Now, grieving family members in China, though, called the report meaningless, saying it offered no new evidence nor cleared doubts about Malaysia's pronouncement in January that the event was an accident. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said the search effort has scoured about 40% of the 60,000 square kilometer patch of the seafloor where the plane is believed to be. He echoed sentiments expressed by his Malaysian counterpart that he is, quote, reasonably optimistic that the plane will be found. Now, for this week's Industry Insight, we take a look at Korea's animated character market. The industry has made huge strides forward in recent years. ARIRANG's Kim Min-ji tells us exactly where Korea stands and also about what it can do to reach the next level.
This 90-second cartoon featuring two larvae and their quirky adventures inside a drain is entertaining enough to attract viewers both young and old, even without dialogue. Created by Tuba Entertainment in 2011, Larva is now broadcast in over 100 countries and is being made into more than 1,000 products.
From the early stages of development, we focused on multinationalization. Body language is somewhat universal, so we could easily create a sensation across different markets.
But it's just one of few success stories. Korea has a relatively short history in the character business and lacks infrastructure and global networks. On top of this, there's still a deep-rooted perception that cartoon characters are just for kids.
Disney's Frozen is an example of an animation that can be enjoyed by the whole family. Korean characters need to target people of all ages, as a larger consumer base will boost the market.
So where does Korea's industry stand? The local character market has grown over 60% in the last 5 years, and it's expected to top $8 billion this year. But despite the exponential growth, it makes up less than 5% of the global market. Analysts say the government needs to open communication channels for local companies to connect with distributors and licensors from around the world. Case in point, the Culture Ministry plans to invest $350 million into the character and animation industries over the next 5 years.
From the fostering of artists to facilitating production and exports, we plan to provide companies with comprehensive assistance.
Roy Visual, creator of hit animated TV show Robocar Polly, says the drive is sure to boost Korea's potential.
Korea has the manpower, so with systematic support for the process of creating a character or animation, local companies will be able to create stronger and better content.
With the right reinforcements and time, experts say Korea will be able to produce characters as iconic as Mickey Mouse. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
In the year 2012, for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. The government is planning to focus on boosting domestic demand in the first half of the year amid deflationary pressures. One of the ways it plans to achieve that goal is to inject $9 billion into the economy. Shin Se-min has the details.
The Park administration is planning to invest 10 trillion won, or roughly $9 billion in the first half of the year to help lift the economy out of the doldrums. The money is part of a $41 billion revitalization fund set up by the finance ministry last year. The ministry had earmarked $9 billion this year from the remaining $13.5 billion. The state-run Korea Institute of Public Finance says allocating more than half of the budget in the first part of the year will help grow the economy by 0.23 percentage points as opposed to dispersing it evenly throughout the year. The government hopes to increase the minimum wage and stimulate domestic spending to prevent the economy from falling into deflation. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan has repeatedly emphasized the need to raise the minimum wage to revive the economy. The government says it'll also use the funds to garner investment, create more jobs, and provide more welfare benefits in line with the country's drive to reform the economy. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
And speaking of the minimum wage, there are growing calls for an increase to the minimum wage in Korea, but latest data shows Korea's lowest legal wage is neither that high or that low compared to other OECD nations. According to data released by Economic and Social Development Commission and Korea Employers Federation on Monday, the annual minimum wage stood at just over $12,000 in 2013, ranking Korea 14th out of the 25 OECD member countries. However, workers and labor unions in Korea say the minimum wage is not something that can be compared by only looking at those numbers and not something that should be compared with other countries. They say there is a huge imbalance between corporate earnings and household income income and that the current minimum wage fails to meet even the standard cost of living. With continuing concerns over deflation, all eyes are on the Bank of Korea's decision this week on its key interest rate. Will the central bank cut the rate after keeping it steady for 4 months? Son Jung-in has this report.
Alarm bells are ringing for Korea's top economic policymakers after recent data showed the country's inflation rate grew slower than Japan's last year for the first time in over 4 decades and actually recorded negative growth last month. Finance Minister Czech has expressed worries that the Korean economy could be headed down a deflationary path similar to Japan's 20 years ago.
We are deeply worried that the economy is slipping into deflation amid prolonged low consumer price rises. Excluding an increase in cigarette prices, Korea's consumer price growth has moved into negative territory.
Some are demanding the central bank roll up its sleeves to address the worsening situation. Unlike Japan and the Eurozone that are slashing interest rates and easing their monetary policies, Korea has kept its rate steady at 2% for the past 4 months. Amid growing pressure to lower its interest rate, the Bank of Korea is paying close attention to the growing value of the Korean won against the yen and the euro.
Korean exports to Japan and the EU plunged in January. We are watching the appreciation of the won against their currencies.
The Bank of Korea's next rate decision meeting takes place on Thursday. 18 countries have cut rates in the first quarter of 2015. Experts say Korea needs to do the same to help the country's exporters retain some price competitiveness in global markets. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Samsung Electronics saw its net sales in Korea slump to an 8-year low last year. According to an audit report, Samsung's domestic sales came in at $18.7 billion in 2014, down 9% from a year earlier. The weak performance of its mobile division has dragged on its domestic sales. Samsung's mobile division saw its net sales tumble nearly 20% to about $10 billion last year. Yet, Samsung's latest Galaxy S6 has received relatively good reviews globally after it was unveiled ahead of this year's Mobile World Congress in Spain. But will it be enough to cement Samsung's position as one of the premier players in the market? ARIRANG's Song Ji-sun filed this report from Barcelona.
Samsung's distinctive blue and white flags welcomed more than 90,000 visitors to the Korean company's booth at this year's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And this year, the spotlight was on Samsung's latest Galaxy S6 smartphone models. With its slimmer design and wireless charging system, the unique look and feel of the phone was what captivated crowds the most.
I noticed that it felt different. It's not like the previous Galaxy S smartphones because Samsung has done a great job with the design of the phone by making the front and the back sides of glass and putting this great metal frame, this very sturdy frame around the device. It's durable, yet it looks amazing.
While the Galaxy S6 was grabbing the most attention, a market follower wanted Samsung spectators to drop by its booth too. Just across from Samsung sits Huawei, the world's 4th largest handset maker. As the event's official sponsor, Huawei had the most floor space, and the Chinese company did not waste an inch of it, displaying everything from handsets to Internet of Things devices such as CarFi, setting up a Wi-Fi environment in a moving car.
And we are very happy to see the friends from everywhere visit our booth, have a discussion. Huawei benefit from that, and also Huawei want to share with all the friends what we have in our R&D and our understanding for the future's roadmap.
Huawei also unveiled its first smartwatch, and while its features are not as advanced as those offered by its Korean rivals, the company is expected to gain ground quickly, as 13% of its annual revenue is pumped back into R&D. That's double the 6% Samsung has set aside for R&D over the past 2 years. Market watchers say Korean manufacturers like Samsung and LG are going to have to up their game if they want to stay at the peak of the global market. Song Ji-sun, ARIRANG News, Barcelona.
Now, this year marks the 25th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Korea and the Czech Republic. To celebrate this occasion, there's a very special glasswork exhibition on display here in Seoul. Our Im Yoon-hee has the story for us today. Good afternoon, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon. Right. So Prague, which is the capital of the Czech Republic, has a very long and rich history in glassmaking and glass art. So the National Museum of Korea is currently hosting an exhibition that features some of their beautiful precious glass relics that are from the National Museum of Prague. Take a look at this next report.
For hundreds of years, Bohemia, now part of the present-day Czech Republic, was admired for its rich history in glasswork, and many of the world's most prized glass masterpieces were made in this European country. From hand-blown glass vases to painted beer mugs, glasswork from the country has become famous worldwide. And while it didn't originate in the Czech Republic, the country did establish its significance through its mastery of the art.
The eagle is on the coat of arms of the Holy Roman Empire, and under the wings of the eagle, which is a very important place, is a symbol of Bohemia, proving the importance of the Czech Republic.
To mark 25 years of diplomatic relations between Korea and the Czech Republic, the National Museum of Korea has opened an exhibition featuring 343 original handcrafted Czech glass pieces. The glassworks were flown in from the National Museum of Prague and the Museum of Decorative Arts in Prague.
At the end of the 19th century, glasswork schools and artists emerged. Their work was in demand and designed according to people's needs, which is how the Czech Republic became famous in Europe for its glass.
The exhibition displays everything from stained glass pieces that were once displayed in churches to small creative glassworks to show the mastery of the glass artists of Bohemia.
So apart from those pieces, you were also saying that there are some very important stained glass work being showcased.
Right,
there.
so they have 3 Christian-themed stained glass windows that are being shown, and they actually date back to the 15th century, and they're believed to be some of the oldest stained glass windows still in existence. Now, religion was a big part of the glass-making art there at that time, so you'll see a lot of symbols and themes from Christianity in a lot of these glass works.
And Prague, of course, has a very diverse cultural background, and you did say that they are very famous for its glasswork and work art as well.
So during the 16th century, Prague became the capital of the Holy Roman Empire, and as a result, it became this huge cultural and art hub of the area. And so you saw a lot of development, especially in the glass art making front. And so from there, it really expanded and developed. Old techniques were, further developed, and new techniques were picked up as well. Now, with this exhibition, you really can see a wide range of different types of works, anything from jewelry worn by royalty to beer cups to stained glass windows like I mentioned earlier. So you really get to see a diversity of the cultures that influence the glass making, as well as the original traits that they had in the glass making there as well.
Right, so if you don't have a chance to go to Prague personally, then this is the exhibition that you want to go to check out some of the enormous glasswork.
Right.
All right, thank you very much, Yoon-hee, for today's report.
It's always a pleasure.
Hello, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. Due to a light low pressure front, it's a bit cloudy in parts of the country today, but we are expecting that to clear with the arrival of the blast of the cold air later this afternoon. Now, that will pull down the mercury quite a bit. In fact, we're expecting a cold weather advisory at around 6 p.m. mainly here in the central region and for some parts of Gyeongsangbuk-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces, while a wind advisory is currently in effect for the western coast and the southern coast regions. Now, here's your 5-day forecast. Tomorrow is going to be even chillier than today, but the temperatures will go back up starting on Wednesday. And looking at the rest of the week, no rain is expected, but temperatures will be hovering under the seasonal averages. Now let's have a look at the readings for today. Seoul will peak up to 7 this afternoon, while Gwangju and Busan will get up to 10 and 15 degrees. Moving over to other regions, Jeju-Waneng gets up to 11, Dokdo gets out to 10, while Nangpyeong is chillier at -1 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
And that's all the time we have for now. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung in Seoul. Another edition of ARIRANG News with me coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time.